Good afternoon. My name is Jinsu from the Korea Transport Institute. I just wonder if I still have 15 minutes for presentation.
15 minutes.
Okay, 15 minutes, okay. Actually, I was rather ambitious, so I prepared a lot of slides, so I'll go rather quickly so that I can meet some time constraint. I would like to talk about some kind of financing, some funding issues in urban railway project in Korea. Well, this is the photos, pictures of some Korea in 1960s, where when there was no any urban metro lines there, so many buses and cars and crowded, and then they cannot move anymore. So this is one of the main reasons why we thought of having the urban metro lines. So first line was in Seoul was constructed in 1971, and in 1974, and then the following line is constructed in 1984. And then the line has been expanded to up to the metro line number 8, and now we have a metro line number 9. And also we had other kind of metro lines. It's not a metro, but there's some railway lines operating in Seoul metropolitan area, which is operated by the national train operator, Korail. And also this metro is operated by the Seoul city government. There are 2 public agencies there for operating the Seoul metro lines there. Also the other local cities also has started to develop their metro lines there. This is the overall figure that Seoul now has 9 lines, and then their total length is around 327 kilometers. And actually, this is the lines only operated by the Seoul city government. But if we include some metro, this rail lines operate in Seoul metropolitan area, operated by the national train operator, Korail, it's going to be more than a double of this figure, actually triple. You can see the urban railways by Korail. They are operating around 600 kilometers in Seoul metropolitan area. So in total, it's going to be around more than 900 kilometers rail lines operating in Seoul area. This is the map for Seoul metropolitan area for your brief understanding. And then also could be the we call GTX, where the G stands for some people firstly some name of province there, Gyeonggi, and lastly Great or something like that, or sometimes Green. But anyhow, this is GTX. This is the similar to the RRT. This is the line connecting from the satellite city of Seoul and then to the city center, to the Seoul city. So now we still have some metro, some railway lines connecting satellite cities and then Seoul city. But their operating speed is around 30 to 35 kilometers per hour. So we thought that that's not enough. So we need to think about having more faster RRT by the railways. So maximum speed would be 100. It's operating speed. It's not the maximum speed of train. Maximum speed of train would be faster than this one. Operating speed is 100. For doing that, we are going to have a smaller station. For the general kind of some urban metro or urban railways, you are going to have each station by every kilometer. But in this case, maybe one station per 10 kilometers, something like that. So by doing that, we can make kind of some increased speed. Also, of course, we can use the faster locomotives as well. This is the construction plan. I mean, this is a Seoul city map, and there are several other kind of some ongoing railway project. Mainly would be constructed through PPP scheme. This is the surrounding Gyeonggi province, the surrounding Seoul city, and they also have several railway project. This is also some railway project by the central government, which I'm going to skip. Okay, now I'm going into the some financing scheme for urban metro or RRT, say. We call metropolitan rail. Metropolitan rail here means that the railway line connecting the one metropolitan area and the other metropolitan, like an area or some city or some province. So if I have a look at the table there on the bottom, there you can see some changes in some urban rail funding structure. It has like a different structure between Seoul and other cities. In the case of Seoul, they're rather richer city than other cities. So government support would be lower than the other smaller cities. So in the case of Seoul, up until 1980s, there was a very little government kind of support for the construction of the railway metro. It was like around 3%. So the almost majority of this money needs to become from the local government, but in early 1990s, it has increased up to 15 to 30%, and then now the central government supports up to 40% of their capital cost. In the case of the Seoul. In the case of other cities, there is going to be 60% would be supported by central government, and the rest of 40% would be supported by the local government. And this is some support from central government. And also, in the case of the local government, of course, even though they need to support support only 40 to 60% of total construction cost, but it's still quite a lot of money for them to manage. So they, in general, issue the bonds for those the funding operation, and that is some urban railways law stipulate the compulsory purchase of urban railway bonds, so that the local government can get some money for the construction of urban railways. Also, up until 1980s or even early 1990s, we had relied on the foreign loan for the construction of the metro lines. And another funding source for the construction is the Metropolitan Transport Infrastructure Fund. This is applied only to the Metropolitan Railway Lines, or RRT project. So this is like when they are especially this kind of metropolitan railway is needed when they are building satellite cities, outskirts of some major city. And then in the case, if there is a new city development, the developer would have some increased land value. They capture that value, and then some portion of that value would be invested on the railway construction. So, and this is the fund to be paid to the government by their developer, the land developer. And then the government would use this fund for their metropolitan transport infrastructure construction. Okay, for example, this is some lines, thing is that if there is no any PPP, no private sector involvement, or no this MTI fund. If there isn't any MTI fund or no PPP scheme, then in the case of the metropolitan railway project, central government would support 70% of total capital cost, and then the other 30 would be covered by local government. Okay, next case is that if there is a PPP scheme, then if the private sector cover like a 50%, then the rest of 50 would be shared by central and local government by the 70 to 30% of ratio. In the case of if there is no any kind of PPP, but there is fund, MTI fund, if the MTI fund was like 30% of total capital cost, and then the other 70% would be shared by central government and the local government with the same ratio of the 7 to 3. And then if there is a PPP and the MTI fund together, then the private sector say if this is going to be 50%, then private sector would cover 50. The other 30%, if the MTI fund is 30% of total capital cost, then 30% would be used for this one firstly, and the remaining 20% would be shared by central and local government with the same proportion of their investment rate. Actually, this is some account that we need to introduce to you. I mean, even before this special account for transport infrastructure. This is the earmarked fund for the infrastructure, transport infrastructure investment. It was introduced in 1994. The source of this account or this fund is the transport, energy, environment tax, and also general account and facility usage free as well. But majority of this fund, this account is from this tax. So, okay, for example, if you use gasoline and there for your car, and then if you buy one liter of gasoline, then around $0.48 would be paid to this tax, and this tax would be used for the transport infrastructure investment. In the case of the diesel, it's going to be $0.34. So special account is the main source for national transportation infrastructure investment in Korea. So as you can see from this figure, in 2015, the special account accounted for around 80% of total national transport infrastructure investment. Yet only 20% is coming from general account. Oh, there was a beautiful actually figure which we cannot see, but anyhow, I'm going to skip due to the some time constraints. And another final some funding sources would be PPP. It was introduced in 1994. But it was not popular because the private sector was concerned about the risk of the project. So they were not very confident of, gaining the proper profits out of the revenue. So government wanted to promote PPP scheme. So in 1999, government introduced minimum revenue guarantee. So this is some example, minimum revenue guarantee is means that a certain portion of project annual revenues may be guaranteed when actual operation revenue for short of projected revenue prescribed in the contract. Say this, look at the table. This has been changed, but in the early stage, government guaranteed up to 90% of the agreed annual, the revenue. So even though the actual revenue would be 10%, the government would cover guarantee up to 90. It means that there is no any risk for the private sector. This is the main reason why the private sector involved in the many railway PPP projects since then. But the thing is that there has been many problems with these kind of things. When we have constructed in early 2010 or something like that, we have realized that the actual revenue is for sort of their expected revenue, say only 10 to 20%, sometimes like less than 50%. So the rest of the deficit should be covered by the central government, which was too burdensome for them. So that's why Korean government decided to abolish the MRG scheme completely in 2009. I'm going to skip. And this is some examples, some BTO projects in Korea, Incheon International Airport railway lines and some other lines. They have like those kind of this kind of MRG condition there, and had lots of problems. This is BTR project, which I'm going to skip. And this figure shows that the PPP has increased up to like 2007, and then since it has been decreased because of the main reason is the abolishment of MRG scheme, and another reason could be there some economic some crisis in the world in around 2008, something like that. Now it's decreasing, but still, Korean government think that we have lots of some places for investment, transporting for investment, so they would like to promote their participation of the private sector. So recently, Korean government proposing a new type of some PPP scheme we call risk sharing BTO scheme. So after their MRG scheme was abolished, after the abolishment of MRG scheme, the private investment has been decreased. So, but the thing is that they have, because without MRG, there was too high risk for the private sector. So, in this scheme, if their yearly capital investment and operation cost is 100, then their risk would be shared, or their profit would be shared between government and private sector. If, say, assume that government and private sector share the 50 and 50 of their investment, then if it's the actual revenue is like 60%, then 40% would be shared by the private sector and central government. And or in the case of case 2, if the actual revenue is like more than 120, then 20 of the profit would be shared by the government and private sector. This is a scheme which was suggested by the Korean government last year, and then one railway project is now on the way with applying this scheme. We hope that we can see some increase again with this scheme, but we'll see what will happen. Okay, thanks for your attention.